Hi, I'm Joel Crawford, the director of Puss in Boots: The Last Wish.
Hi, my name's Jim Ryan. I'm the film editor.
Hi, I'm Mark Swift. I'm the producer.
Hi, I'm Heidi Gilbert. I was the head of story.
Hola, I'm Januel Mercado, co-director of Puss in Boots: The Last Wish.
So we're back with Puss in Boots. I think it's been 11 years since this character last appeared on the screen. We were very lucky to be the team asked to bring this beloved character back. What do you think he's been in those last 11 years, guys?
That was the fun. We were like, there's a group of the audience who may not have been born when the first movie was out. And there's the other people who've been missing him and waiting for his return. And so this is the opportunity where like we could reintroduce Puss to the world and also introduce him to some younger viewers. And one of the cool opportunities, I love this opening because we get to kind of update the franchise in a way and treat this like a classic fairy tale. And not only you'll notice through this movie there's a painterly style that it looks like you're dropped into a fairy tale itself. But even in things like this where it pops up and says, this is a fairy tale, that's preparing you for, it's the character you love that you know, that's legacy character, but you're now seeing even a bigger tone, more expanded world.
Yeah, I love that we actually put this is a fairy tale. We are firmly placing this in the fairy tale world. And it gave us a real direction, both in the story and the look, to really push this character.
And not just a fairy tale, but a storybook, right? A fairy tale storybook.
Yeah.
I think it's so appropriate that we introduce Puss via his voice because it's so iconic, Antonio Banderas.
Yeah. And then in this first intro, Januel, I know you and I always love this idea of him. We call it the destiny shot. We're on his back, and you'll see this throughout the movie. But that it's him walking into the light, almost like a rock star, but also this movie is about, Puss being on his last life.
And life and death.
Yeah, and I think that opening scene was definitely, we like this thought of Puss in Boots as really a rock star. He's coming out to his people. He's coming out to perform. This is where we're opening with Puss in Boots in this movie. This is where he's comfortable. This is how he thinks of himself.
And I love this line here where he gets the name of the city wrong because it shows you this guy's just traveling around. He doesn't really know where he's at. He's just living the party life. He loves being the Robin Hood, giving out the gold.
I feel like we would occasionally say things like, what would Mick Jagger do? That was
Just wanted to point out the hidden images of death, like that skull above Puss hidden throughout the film that really echo the theme and the journey that Puss has to go through between legend and meaningful life.
I think it's really cool, Januel. Like, Puss is so oblivious or ignorant to death because he's in this kind of, I'm immortal, I'm going to live forever point of view. So we love putting all these images behind him.
I love this song. It really states where his head is at the moment. Who is your fearless hero, telling the crowd. He's really adoring everyone's kind of, praise and love at this moment.
And speaking of praise and love, I'd like to give a little bit of love to our composer, Heitor Pereira, who did an amazing job just coming up with this song. I remember the first time he played it for us, we're all tapping our feet. We're just like, it has the energy of Puss in Boots. It's fantastic. It was an amazing experience working with him.
And even the way that the movie kicked off with even just the title sequence, just that big, dramatic, adventurous theme that he found for Puss and the Wishing Star. I'm going to start pointing out all the foreshadowing and all that hidden stuff we have here, but there's again, more skull imagery, and there's that cut through the portrait of Puss that you'll see is a kind of subtle setup for later in this recurring thing that Puss has never been cut by a blade.
And bring me the head of Puss and Boots! Hey, this is a party. Where's the music?
The other really fun thing in this opening is this is where we're introducing during this action that it doesn't have to be that traditional CG, everything is on one frame.
Mm-hmm.
It's a little bit more pushed, a little bit more stylized, some kind of anime influence you'll see.
This is you guys.
Yeah.
The singing talents of Joel Crawford and Januel Mercado.
We were just trying to give Heitor a idea of like, wouldn't it be fun if two people popped in? We didn't expect our voice to end up in it. We're not
I did.
singers.
I was pushing
Yeah,
for
yeah, yeah. Heidi and I insisted upon it.
And again, it's like it's a gag, it's a fun joke, right? But what they're saying is, again, Puss has never been touched by a blade, which gets paid off.
But do you want to talk about like the Baby Driver inspiration
Oh yeah,
for this area too?
yeah, Joel.
Yeah. So the whole feeling of this opening, we wanted to have this momentum and this kind of choreography, feeling like everything is going to the beat. And so we made sure all this action, boom, chair hits, the feet pounding, everything is in sync so that even though it's this big dramatic action scene, you're in Puss's point of view where this is choreographed. He's been through this a million times. This is no problem. There's a smoothness to the camera. There's the song Double Time. Everything keeps going. You don't feel danger because Puss is oblivious to death at this point.
It's just like a party.
And Heidi, you mentioned the Edgar Wright influence, and we lucked out with actually having Julian Slater, our mixer and head of our sound team. Yeah, that he's Edgar Wright's guy and has done exactly those scenes that we reference. Little Easter egg, that sign is a Jack Horner shop sign, so we're already setting up our villain in these little details.
His pies are everywhere.
Yeah.
I didn't even know that.
Yeah, cool.
There's the wolf.
The wolf. That shot is one of our favorite hidden Easter eggs. You can see the wolf in the corner.
If you freeze frame there, there's a lot of stuff if you freeze frame in this, but if you freeze frame, the wolf is in the alleyway watching, stalking Puss.
I think this is the part of the movie where we were really trying to make it feel like a soccer game.
Yeah.
Puss is like Messi or Ronaldo. He's out there and the crowd are cheering him. Even like the music here kind of nearly feels like the stadium chanting that you get at a soccer game.
Yeah.
And combined with this really pushed anime kind of style.
Yeah. Amazing shot by Ludo. It's one of our favorite.
Ludo Buonsho, our head of character animation, was such an amazing partner on this.
And so these series of Bell sound designs we've been hearing. Jim, Joel, you want to talk about that? Actually, it's another cool hidden thing of what it represents.
Yeah, so Puss, because he is technically going to lose his 8th life, the bell actually tolls 8 times during this scene, if you count it. That was the 7th. And if you haven't seen the movie yet, I totally ruined it for you. But he's gonna die.
You really should only be watching this once you've seen the movie. Spoiler alert, by the way.
Go to the theater, man. Come on.
That is one of my favorite parts where he's like, "You're still here?"
Oh yeah. Again, the hubris, right, and the flaw that Puss has of having to come back for the encore. If he didn't, he would have survived.
Yeah, that was 8.
Yeah, that was 8.
And I think that's important. Again, like we're setting up to the audience, we love Puss in Boots. Everyone loves Puss in Boots. But where is he at the start of this movie? He's really kind of leaning into his ego. And we're about to find out in this sequence, he also really hasn't valued his life.
And, I think in our early conversations with Antonio Banderas about this character, he really attached to the fun of making Puss flawed, that he's kind of lost touch with his roots and he's this larger-than-life character. And Antonio is so charming, so funny, and just genuine that even when Puss is being arrogant, you still love watching him. And Antonio's just such an amazing actor.
So charismatic.
To draw out the evil humors. Suit yourself. More for me.
Jan, lots of death imagery in this scene, right?
Wanted to make sure, you had the blades, the skeletons.
Now, do you know a good place?
And again, this kind of setting, feeling kind of like, almost like purgatory, because it's like in between after his last life and the beginning of his next life, and then as it launches him into the next scene where the stakes are raised.
But I just love that it's serious,
Yeah.
but I mean, that's a barber haircut
Yeah.
thing with the skulls on it.
Yeah.
Because the barber has many jobs,
Yeah.
as they did in this era, where and
Yeah.
so I love that even he can't differentiate his different jobs.
Let's see.
And you got the witch skull in the background there. 'Cause
Yeah.
Witch Finder,
Giant
and then,
skeleton. They're like hidden images that represent the heavy theme, but they're also really fun and light and quirky.
Speaking of fun, Jim, you really in edit constructed the scene that gave it this life where you can enjoy watching Puss die. You want to talk about that?
Yeah, the goal was to show how, Puss basically kind of, in many ways, kind of carelessly threw his lives away. But, he's just having fun. He's living the most of his life, and he's not giving it any thought. So we wanted to have it be, what's the most fun, arrogant approach? Even to the point where he's told, yes, that is the thing you're allergic to, and he eats it anyway, because he just doesn't care. And that
Just
is the
want to
setup.
point out Januel's design of the death cards with the wolf in the corner
Yeah.
of those.
It's the design of the
Another
wolf with
Easter
the
egg.
sickles.
Yeah.
And I love we brought Gingy back.
Yep.
Little cameo.
Yeah.
Original voice as well, Conrad Vernon.
I mean, that's what's so fun of the Puss in Boots world. It has like a foot dipped in the Shrek fairy tale world, but it's also, for us, there's another element of it, which is the spaghetti western. And so for us,
Yeah.
it's like so fun to bring back some little cameos of characters we love from Shrek, but feel like Puss exists also in a bigger world of his own.
Yep.
This is the
Anthony Mendez did a great job
yeah.
as the doctor/barber/veterinarian.
Oh, he was so great at trying so many. It was such a balance because he needs to be funny, but he also needs to be so serious. And Puss is the one that's arrogantly not listening.
Yeah.
death.
Another foreshadowing that I'll mention again later, but there's an image of that skeleton holding Puss's sword that Puss grabs back for himself.
This is one of my favorite scenes in the whole movie, where Puss is looking back, pissed off, like at the doctor.
Fabio Lignini
Yeah.
animated that, and it has so much attitude. It cracks me up every time.
And what I love, again, just the storytelling that we found together is that at the end of that scene, he's given the warning, right? Like, be careful, you're on your last life. And he just totally ignores the doctor and walks away going into the scene,
And this is where we thought we could really introduce the spaghetti western tone. This is the scene where a bounty hunter comes for him.
Love this reveal.
And his
Even the whistling has a kind of Sergio Leone kind of.
Oh,
Ennio
yeah.
Morricone feel.
Yeah, it was like inspired by Charles Bronson's character Harmonica in Once Upon a Time in the West. Wagner Moura as the wolf.
Wagner was amazing to work with. And the combo of he and Antonio is just, it's so specific and so unique. And Wagner really, he just was so open to try so many different approaches to this character until he found the one that felt so quirky. Not just a bad guy, actually not a bad guy. He has this vendetta against Puss, and you get to see that he just feels real. He doesn't feel like a arch villain.
Puss in Boots laughs in the face of death.
Oh, and again, that number 8 that we love to represent his lives. There's 8 shot glasses on the table, and he's drinking the 9th one, his last life.
And at the head of the scene, there's a little town clock that's chiming 8 times in the background.
Yeah,
when the candle goes out.
as the 9th hit. Yeah,
I think the sequence is a great one to talk about the actual style
yeah.
of our movie and what we were trying to do. That was a little different from previous kind of Shrek, Puss in Boots movies.
Yeah, we wanted this to surprise the audience coming off of that big giant fight, which was smooth and choreographed and everything was in sync. And this feels quick, shocking. And Jim, the editing on this, what you were able to do with our scribbly panels to feel that kind of frenetic energy.
This is a scene that kind of came together in Editorial with you guys we cut the original pass together, took a look, and then you guys would immediately start, scribbling literally on Post-its, new thoughts, new ideas. And it was kind of fun how we'd immediately put them in and try them out and get on the mic and put in dialogue. And like one of my favorite shots in the movie coming up right here.
Yeah.
Jan, you put it on a Post-it. And I think we felt like we wanted the movie to shock audiences here, right?
Yep.
Yeah. I love how Nate Ragg, the production designer, stylized it. He took that to another level where at the flash of red when Puss gets cut, and then there's just that little red drop that you really feel the impact of.
Yeah. I was just going to say, like, Puss's fear is kind of the engine that drives this whole movie, so we really needed the audience to feel that real fear right along with Puss.
And I hope everyone caught the little Shrek callback there in his previous lives.
Yeah, because this takes place, Puss has been through all his adventures. This is on his eighth life.
And I'm just going to geek out early on again with how much work we put into like the composition and cinematography and these beautiful frames, again, inspired by the spaghetti westerns, Sergio Leone's films,
And-
even Kurosawa, just like the framing of everything. It's such beautiful filmmaking.
The head of layout, which is pretty much our cinematographer on this, Chris Stover, was such an amazing partner. He is so experienced, so well-rounded, and like really, we had the same language you were speaking with that spaghetti western, and he and his team did an amazing job throughout the movie. But that scene was particularly one of them that was so strong, so cool.
Yeah, and really one of the first sequences we actually did on the movie. Like it really kind of
Set
was
the
a
tone.
beacon for the rest of the film.
Yeah, I think that was where we discovered it still feels like a fairy tale, but it starts to dip into like a grim fairy tale, and which is a new tone to introduce to this Puss/Shrek world, and it really, I think, works. You believe Puss is on his last life.
And it's awesome, Joel, that it's new, but it's like it pays homage to the roots of fairy tales that were much edgier, much darker.
I am no longer worthy.
Gabby Moreno, it's an
I love it.
amazing singer that Heitor, the composer, knew, and another one where he's like, "Hey guys, I just came up with this," and we played it for us, and it's a beautiful, beautiful song.
it.
Stay to the very end of the credits.
Yeah.
Don't you leave, because you get to hear her whole song.
It's
and
beautiful. And Mark, I just want to mention, you were talking earlier about Puss's ego and how it's a big part of the story. And I think it's interesting that we see Puss literally bury his ego in the ground there with his outfit, his little swashbuckling outfit that throughout the movie, again, it's a recurring thing where his removing and putting on his hat and his boots and what
But
it
he
means
can't
at different times
help
of the journey.
himself here, giving himself a eulogy.
Yeah.
doing his own eulogy.
Yeah.
There's an arrogance to that. And again, with Antonio, it's so charming and funny. You just love watching him
And sad.
make
you know.
himself cry at his own funeral.
Even after he's clearly thrown in the towel, he's burying his old self. He still doesn't totally lose the arrogance.
This is always
one
one
of
of
my
the big,
favorite shots in the
it's always
movie.
one of the biggest laughs is burying it like cat litter, cat poo.
Which just works. He's now has to go be a cat. He can't bury it as he normally walks around on 2 feet.
I told you, health department people, there are no cats here.
The writer Paul Fisher, has such a great voice for characters and finding new things. I remember that all those cat paws poking out, and I mean, I don't know. I don't know that Paul has a bunch of cats, but he was so specific in the script in this scene that really helped us find Mama Luna.
You're forever.
Have to shout out the lovely Divine Joy Randolph as the voice of Mama Luna. So funny.
I bet you never even.
And then Paul Fisher he's also a talented artist, and I remember he drew that one joke of Mama Luna in the bathtub, the reveal that
In the tub.
she's actually in there bathing Puss, and it cracked us up, and we put it in.
Oh, here comes a fan favorite coming up. Boom. You thought we're gonna have a Puss in Boots sequel and not have OCAT in it?
Returning voice of Bob Persichetti from the first movies. That's actually the same voice from the very first one doing the OCAT.
Oh, I love this Spanglish cover we did of This Is the End, The Doors, This Is the End.
So, Jim, you were very specific with the song. What were your thoughts about it?
Well, what's interesting is Joel had suggested this song initially, and don't go Googling, but I'm like, there's some really inappropriate lyrics in this, Joel. I think it's a terrible idea. And then after a minute, I'm like, well, Jim, we don't have to use the bad parts of the song. So, and Joel was correct, as he often is, and the song worked beautifully. And then Jan, you mentioned about I think we're all kind of independently looking is there a Spanish version of it? Maybe it's all Spanish. Mm-hmm. And then we began to, but it's such an iconic song. So if the whole thing was in Spanish, people might not recognize it. So then that's where we kind of came up with the alternating lyrics of the Spanglish.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I love this. And that singer, Dan Navarro.
Oh, yeah. So
is
talented.
An amazing singer and helped us so much on all the songs. Yeah. But I just love his voice in there.
And I just want to mention real quick, since we're all connoisseurs of cinema, as Jim says, that was our awesome homage to Francis Ford Coppola's Apocalypse Now.
Yeah, for you people who are old enough to know what that is.
You got the scent?
And we get our intro of new characters, Goldie and the Three Bears crime family, played by Joel.
We have Florence Pugh here. It's amazing. I mean, honestly, this whole cast is amazing. Samson Kayo as Baby, Ray Winstone as Papa Bear, and Olivia Colman as Mama Bear. Mm-hmm. And they're amazing. And I believe, Mark, in England, where you hail from, they're even more cherished, aren't they?
Yeah, particularly Ray Winstone has a long history of playing wonderful characters, and it has become really a national treasure.
It's like we got the royal family of actors.
Yeah.
I just want to shout out Januel Mercado, who storyboarded this introduction of Meat Dog. It was one of my favorite pitches from the movie, and it's so great just seeing such a positive, optimistic character played against Puss, who's lost all will to live.
It is funny with a dog with this dumb little cat beanie and then Puss with his cynical beard. It's such a fun contrast.
Yeah.
And it was something interesting with the actors. We found the meaner Antonio was, and then more gruff.
Yeah.
And the more positive the dog was. It's just such a funny thing that the dog's unaffected. Harvey Guillen is such an amazing actor. We're so fortunate that he took on this role.
Really embodied it, yeah.
Mm-hmm. There's an argument to be made that he steals the movie, and that's a very high bar to steal a movie with the rest of this cast.
Yeah.
It's mostly controlled by the rats and the centipedes.
Another homage to, again, the Sergio Leone's spaghetti westerns, The Man with No Name. Our dog is a dog with no name, but we kind of turned the archetype on its head, where it's not like the fearsome outlaw. It's this lovable, innocent dog that just wants a friend.
You're still a mystery to me, Pickles. What's your story?
We actually, Januel, you and I talked about, again, our love of Seven Samurai.
Yeah.
And Akira Kurosawa.
Yeah.
Toshiro Mifune, who played that one he was essentially
the samurai with no name,
tag-along who just kept...
Oh, yeah.
he wouldn't give up. He kept following the real loyal samurais and became the heart of that movie. And that, again, inspired, even though it's a ridiculous comedy, we have this love of those kind of things.
It's awesome.
It's one of the things I love about working with Joel and Januel is they will interchangeably in the same conversation be throwing out things like Seven Samurai and then other movies like Step Brothers. What I love about our movie is you can kind of see the influences of very high art and less than high art all coming together.
Oh, and I think we feel like it's all high art. It's just for different audiences.
And that's what we love. We love the contrast. We love mashups, synthesis, creating something new out of old stuff.
I mean, have you guys seen MacGruber?
Can we just stop this and play MacGruber and talk about it? I just want to talk about Puss's beard, like how we pushed that idea. Just it's another side of Puss, and we thought it'd be really funny. And oh man, it just came together so well. It looks so beautiful and inspired by like that kind of the long-haired Mancoon type of cat. And I always thought that, oh, maybe Puss is part Mancoon. Like maybe he has a great grandfather, and that's why he could grow his beard like that.
I gotta say, the first time we saw this right here, where Goldie walks through the door, those effects that James Jackson, the head of visual effects on this, found such a cool, like hand-drawn feel that as she walks through the dust, it's like it pulls apart, and it really helps you feel like this tangible painterly quality.
We used to kind of say that this is her Darth Vader entering shot.
Yeah.
You know?
Excuse me, my darling. We're looking for the...
I think this is the sequence where we start to get a sense of the personality of Goldie and the Bears.
Yeah.
And, I think for us, we love this idea, this British family coming in, but playing a little bit against type, that they're really kind of like a Cockney kind of smash and grab, kind of like we kind of picture them as a not very successful kind of crime family.
Yeah.
And, laying into sort of those tropes that sometimes you see in Guy Ritchie movies.
Yeah.
We kind of
The
put them
bumbling.
through that lens. And I think they really came alive once we started imagining them in that way.
Yeah, I remember, Mark, when you were like, they've got to be Cockney, and it feels so right.
I mean, even the song he's about to bust out, like, this would be sort of like, an old Cockney standard that people would play, like, in the pubs.
Yeah, Mark,
like,
you suggested this one.
You
It's a hat on a hat.
Hat on a hat.
yeah.
And Januel and I always put too many jokes in movies, and there's always this saying, you can't put a hat on a hat because you're going to ruin a joke. So Januel defiantly put a hat on a hat with Mama Bear trying on hats.
And I don't think people laugh very much, but we get a kick out of it.
I like Mama Luna when she gets stuffed to the piano. So you think this is the first time I've been stuffed to the piano? Like, there's something so fun and feisty about her where you actually don't feel bad that these bears are handling like this. She can take it.
Yeah, she's not phased. These bears have broken into her house.
Definitely not.
I found him! Puss in Boots. Dead.
And some more Western tropes that we've utilized in this movie are like those long shadows. So we got some cool shots throughout the movie.
And Hator's that bell hit when as soon as you cut to it, it's just it all pulls it together.
This is another sequence for me, like if you look at the backgrounds and how painterly they go, this is a really beautiful looking sequence that Nate Ragg and his team kind of managed to make work. Like the flowers, the sort of details in them, it's really lovely.
I think Joe Finesilver's beautiful color keys that he's done throughout the movie, including this scene.
This scene was a big challenge because it's heavily expository. There's a lot of information coming at the audience. And you guys found a great way to stage it and not make it feel that way.
Yeah, and then I remember Paul Fisher did that where he overlapped the information between Goldie and Puss, and it came together.
Oh, and I forgot to mention this, but we have another recurring visual motif with Goldie and the Bears, which is images of homes, and even like it could get as simple as just triangles around. Like in that previous shot, there was like a triangle connecting the characters, and we're always just trying to look for moments where it's like, this is their story of them trying to find this home, or what does it mean to feel that you have family and a real home.
Yeah, and early on, it's their broken home.
Yeah, that first image. Yeah, in the rubble in the town.
Normally, I have a sword. It's like a whole thing, you know.
Pickles? You're Puss in Boots?
Not yet, but I will be.
I'll come look.
Again, continuing the runner of Puss, putting on his outfit at different times that represent different parts of the journey and his growth.
It's fun that he's got a beard and no sword.
And
so
dirty,
he's definitely not himself.
Dirty cape, dirty outfit, yeah.
That's what we're like. It's nice if he loses his mojo.
Yeah.
It's so fun to watch him.
Yeah.
This scene was storyboarded by Simon Wells, and Steve McLeod also took a crack at it, and he came up with those Serpent Sisters, naming them Joel and Jan after our directors, Joel and Jan.
Right.
I think the dumber Serpent Sisters named Joe, though. So
Joe and Jan.
a little bit.
Yeah, he made a real point of that. No, the dumb one's Joe.
Yeah. Can't be Jan. Like, well, I know who your favorite is.
Well, we're about to come into our villain of the movie.
Yeah.
Ooh.
Jack Horner, who, as you're all probably aware, is a super famous nursery rhyme. kind of. I think some people know that. And that's kind of the birth of that character, really, wasn't it?
Yeah, and actually,
Another long shadow shot.
Jack Horner may not be super famous as a nursery rhyme, but John Mulaney as an amazing comedian is famous, and he is so hilarious. And early on, we were actually, when you're creating new characters, you're trying to find the right voice for them. Interesting thing, he was originally the dog, but it didn't seem like we could utilize the full comedy because the dog's so sincere all the time. And in conversations with John, found this Jack Horner character, and Paul Fisher, the writer, came up with this Jack Horner as a villain who has this past of he's just a lame nursery rhyme and he's not magic. So he's spent his life trying to acquire power, acquire magic.
Very bitter about it.
Very. And man, John Mulaney is amazing. And I think we're trying to put together a bunch of edited out stuff that we couldn't use just because the movie can't be 4 hours long.
Yeah.
But John Mulaney just would riff and come up with so many funny versions of lines.
It was always a huge challenge trying to edit those sequences because he had so many funny things. We wanted them all in, but then each scene of his couldn't be 8 minutes long.
It easily became the Jack Horner show.
Yeah.
With how funny he was.
Power of the magic wishing star. Speaking of which,
And I do have a soft spot for the Serpent Sisters. I'd like to see a spinoff.
Yeah, you're like, oh, I love those characters too. Betsy Sidoro is so funny as one of the Serpent Sisters. And Artemis Pabdani is the other Serpent Sister who she helped us out in past projects, and she's hilarious. So
Two very fun and very talented actresses.
Pay close attention. They have snake face tattoos.
That's what I love about this. Like, you're right, Jim. There's so many little fun visual stuff, just the details that you might miss, but they're always in the tone and humor of our movie.
It's kind of fun to go and do his backstory and see he was a little pitch boy.
And another Shrek cameo. Return of Pinocchio.
Cody Cameron.
Nice little Geppetto Easter egg there, him counting the money and whistling to the song.
Yeah, we tried to get like a few little callbacks to Shrek where we could, that without kind of overwhelming the story, and I think we hit a good balance.
I do love that Jakob Jensen, amazing animated, Geppetto's sitting there bobbing his head counting the cash. Just what a sellout.
I'm about to reintroduce Kitty Softpaws.
Selma Hayek is back. Man, she's amazing. I gotta say, it's hard to find somebody who can go toe to toe with Antonio Banderas, but Selma is the one. She is such a pleasure to work with, and always she never gave up on lines. She's like, there's something funny here, and she would bring so many unique things, or just really, she knew the character. And I mean, that's the thing approaching something like this, where Antonio and Selma know the characters, I'd say, even better than we do. And so it's constantly a conversation.
Yeah. And it was great that Selma was constantly challenging us, to slow down, look at the material, look at the lines, what the characters are saying. And I remember she was saying, if we don't slow down, we won't find these gems. And she was right. She found so many gems with Kitty.
Of shame, please mock me quietly.
This is another place where you kind of go, what's happened since the last movie? They don't seem to be getting on as well as they did in Puss in Boots 1.
And that beard, that beard is such a, you can go, oh, they're a couple. The way she's poking at him, and it's one of those things that beard does so much, where you go, she's telling him to shave it, and he's resisting.
Joel,
it's awesome.
But Joel, I love that before when we were kind of working out the scene and the dynamic between them reuniting, you're like, it's like you're running into your ex and you're unshaven and have a stained shirt and you're wearing sweats.
And that's the thing with Puss. He will never admit that everything is purposeful. He's like, I mean to be like this. I like my beard.
It's a fashion choice.
Really it. He didn't expect to see anybody. He thought he'd be in and out.
I think this is really where the good, the bad, and the ugly starts to come through.
Yeah.
That was a big inspiration for you guys, with the multiple
hardened themes.
Yeah.
Like in a race for the ultimate fairy tale prize. Yeah.
Yeah.
And we called it internally the good, the bad, and the Goldie.
Talking fairy tale.
Or carpet. Magic carpet.
Yeah, a lot of more Easter eggs we didn't call out, but if you watch that scene again, just like fun stuff in Jack's office with all the magical objects that he collects.
There! They're getting away!
I love contrasting. Anthony Holden storyboarded this,
Yeah,
and
along with
it's
Simon,
so
too.
funny. Oh yeah, Simon
Yeah.
Wells, amazing. And they contrasted Kitty being so awesome and Puss being so off his
Yeah.
game.
Yeah.
Beard getting stuck and stick. He's surprised to see it. He didn't know the dog stuck that in his holster.
You shouldn't have done that, mate.
That's a cute thing that we've done too, where it's like, Puss has lost his sword, but throughout the movie, what's meaningful is like his friends along the way that help him out, and like Dog is the one that gives him that stick sword, that he wields for a good portion until he levels up later.
It's nice visual representation because Puss's main flaw of this movie is he's not able to lower the legend to
Yeah.
make these meaningful connections with people, and now he's forced to. And yeah, it's just nice to visually represent that with the crappiness of his sword and the beard.
It's like, I think Joel and Mark were always saying, like, knock him down a peg, right?
Yeah.
This zero to hero story is very, like, relatable.
Mine!
We start to get a hint there at what may have transpired between Puss and Kitty last we saw them.
Ah, yeah.
It seemed like they were going to be a couple, and clearly they've been apart for a long
Santa
time.
Coloma.
Santa Coloma.
And Heidi and I, we're both big cat people. We have cats, so we're always fighting for like cat authenticity, and with the way that they're like screeching at each other. I remember just like telling the animators, like, their tail, the way it moves is generated from the bottom of the tail when they're pissed at each other. It has to whip around. That cool shot that Simon did of the wolf in the crowd.
Careful with this.
This was a fun scene that we were kind of modeling after an action star arming up.
Yeah.
I think we were using the Predator soundtrack.
And I was using, looking at Commando, Schwarzenegger arming up.
Yeah. More.
And then
Yeah.
And then it got even funnier when John came in and his angry packing, all of those, like this and that. No, it's so perfect.
Again, so much Easter eggs again with these objects, and it seems like a throwaway sight gag with those Alice in Wonderland cookie and potion, but it's actually an important setup for later.
I'll get you, my kitties, and your little dog too. Who came up with that line?
That was Jim.
Jim Ryan.
And John Mulaney was like, "Oh, I've always wanted to say this." Yeah. And then this of the map, Joel. Let's talk about this map.
Maps are so easy to do. You should put them in every movie. No, this was such a cool device.
Yeah,
to,
I love it.
Add this element of whimsy and mystery, and that this map is magical and is kind of giving them clues along the way, not only to where the wishing star is, but also challenging what they really want. The story being about all these characters who think this one thing will make them happy. And what's cool about the map and the forest is that it constantly is almost holding up a mirror to them. And that map was done in After Effects by Eric Tillmans, and is amazingly seamless
Go
into
Eric.
the CG.
Woo.
The map is something of a supporting character, really.
Yeah, it is.
really is.
Yeah. This scene was storyboarded by Naz Kodradi Azadi, I think. I hope I didn't butcher that name, and Hannah Kim. And I just think it was so pivotal for us to unlocking this character dynamic of Kitty really not trusting Dog, which is just such an entertaining thing.
And then so can't talk about Dog without talking about the kind of supervising animator on Dog, Julian Bocobele. Speaking of butchering last names, I'm sorry, Julian. But he really tapped into this sweet, innocent character. And then we recorded with Selma. She was like, her instinct was like, nah, she's got to be mean to the dog. She doesn't trust anybody. And I love that authenticity with Selma. She sees the truth in the character. And a lot of times it comes out as honest comedy, which is awesome.
And this is a new visual style we found and implemented throughout the film, is kind of these composite images that really had that kind of Western feel, but we just took it to a more contemporary kind of aesthetic, which I love, like these transitions that we found.
Anthony Zierhut boarded this.
And Gary Graham.
Gary Graham.
Such a
Two
stacked
powerhouses.
story team.
Yeah.
It's gone! It's back!
The dark force, we've always like looked at it as a metaphor for a person's internal journey, and specifically Puss. I mean, all the characters, but it's like, it's that thing, like, you know, the only way out is through, and, you know, really finding what is happiness to you. You kind of have to look inward and go through this deep forest of all your issues, you know, to really find what's meaningful.
Yeah, there's a lot of surprising meaning in this.
Yeah, it's very deep.
Comedy.
Yeah.
That quinceañera line was the line that Selma came up with.
Yeah.
So funny.
Got a big laugh in our test audience as well.
The wishing star is in here somewhere. Kitty, may I please see the map?
No.
Seriously? You won't let me hold it for even 1 minute?
Nope. Not even for one.
Oh, and
I've got to shout out Dan Wagner, one of our supervising animators, who found some new stuff with Kitty and Puss.
Wait, what's going on with his eyes? Oh,
Like this, the big eyes, right, Joel? Like, it's kind of leveled up.
Yeah.
You guys want to talk about the challenge of, you know, we've seen Puss do the big eyes probably half a dozen times in other films now.
But it took on a new life with, we've never seen Kitty do it. And the fact that Kitty and Puss are always trying to one-up each other made it so fun. And then the dog being the innocent one of like, what is happening?
I remember Heidi and I were like stoked, like, oh, we got to get those cat paws in there.
Yeah.
The kneading.
Hannah boarded that part so cute with the.
And she put all those like fantastical kind of stars and stuff in those storyboards. And again, in this impressionistic style that this movie's taken on, it allowed us to actually do more stylized things that aren't literally what's happening.
And back to the map. This is a very tricky bit of storytelling of the map. Each person having their own path and what that would mean, and that was a difficult thing to work through.
A quick shout out to Claire Keane, who designed this beautiful map, all these graphics.
Yeah.
The locations and the character emojis.
And this is like an example of kind of, you know, there's so many people who work on these movies and so many different departments, but the effects in this area here, like, it's a real tricky sequence for them and incredibly expensive, but they handle it beautifully.
Mountains of misery? The abyss of eternal loneliness? There's something wrong with this map.
I guess there is a different terrible path for everyone.
It's funny. Dogs. Path got one of the biggest laughs in the movie, which was slightly unexpected.
Yeah, consistent.
I think it's a surprise because it's
the character. Right?
It comes from, he's the only character in this who doesn't want anything.
He has the answer. Yeah.
And the forest is trying to call people out, basically, and say, do you really need this wish? And present their fears. The dog has this innocent, altruistic view, and that's what's so fun is it's coming from just such a sweet place.
Yeah.
And it was fun to go, this guy doesn't belong on this adventure with all these like hardened criminals and cutthroats.
But now he's earned his place.
Yeah.
Suddenly he has value for the first time.
Yep.
Time to go.
In your first meeting with John Mulaney, he kind of gave voice to the theme that we've been kicking around, but I don't think it really totally put our finger on, which is, and then I'll be happy.
That's, that's what's so cool about like all of these talented actors. Not only do you end up with a great voice on screen, but also in the making of this. And it's a conversation. And John, he was talking about, you know, how the one guy who always thinks the one thing will make him happy. What if I had a pizza oven? Yeah, definitely use the pizza oven.
Solve all my problems.
And so much of what John would talk about philosophically, which was just cracked us up, but also was part of that like unlocking the theme. And I think all the actors in our conversations all pointed to the same direction, which was, and that's one of the tricks of doing an ensemble movie, where it's like, even though we're cutting around, they're all experiencing the same theme, different sides of it. But the fact that all the actors were on board with that and were able to kind of experience how desperate everybody is to get the wish.
Get that external wish that they think they'll make them happy. And Joel, again, you mentioned like Dog's altruistic view. This sequence really, represents his point of view and another twist on the archetype of a mentor that we have in the dog. That Dog is actually the mentor for Puss and Kitty to kind of guide them. And again, what is a meaningful life? What is happiness to you?
And I like that we can do really sweet stuff, but because of Puss and Kitty's point of view, it's not over the top. It's not like too saccharine because it's like they can't stand him. They're calling him out. This guy's lame.
They think this is stupid.
Love this.
Yep.
Like that. They're both jerks, which is hilarious. And the dog's unfazed, which is just so sweet.
Yeah. And it's interesting because they look at the dog. It's like he doesn't get it. They think they kind of undervalue him, but he's the only one that gets it.
And Harvey's approach too, it's like he never sounds like all-knowing and he thinks he's teaching them. And the character he found is just, it's so innocent. This story, honestly surprised that we got to put it in the movie.
Everyone loved it.
We're like, that is dark. I mean, it was a conversation between all of us of like, this dog, no matter what's happened to him in life, he's always going to look at the bright side and always have a longing for connection. And
this is one of many scenes that we're like, ooh, are they going to let us do this?
In a sock with a rock in it. And then throw me.
This was boarded by Steve McLeod, and this expression he had in his board coming up for this shot. We just loved the drawing that he had done, and we really wanted to carry that through the rest of production. And I think the animators did a great job capturing it.
I remember when Steve came in and he pitched this, and he told us, he's like, guys, this scene, I got like teary-eyed at the end.
Yeah.
Because there's this real heart, and you really feel for the dog. And it's one of those that like, I love because you're laughing at how shocking his story is. At the same time, you're feeling empathy for him, which is exactly where the Puss and Kitty's journey. This is where although they need the dog for to get to the wishing star, they don't care about him. And this scene, Kitty warms up especially.
You start to think it's a team now.
Yeah. Yep. At least Kitty starts to see him that way. Puss is like, all right, okay.
Well, if it isn't theater.
And then Jack Horner and his death wagon.
With the baker's dozen.
So you guys had fun with the baker's dozen. You want to throw out some of the names that you used?
Januel and Joel and Kevin and I think came up with names for all of the baker's dozen, and we knew that they would never be released to the public, but Januel and I in meetings were pretty persistent in saying, oh, I think you mean not Megan, or that's Pete Cobbler, and that's Jerry Cobbler.
Or Tommy Lee Scones.
Oh, my favorite.
That's the best
That's what I'm voicing. I was like, I gotta be Tommy Lee Scones. But yeah, all pastry and pie themed related for Jack. Look how above and beyond we always go.
Matt Flynn boarded this.
Yeah, and that was our very own Joel Crawford with his naturally deep voice playing. I think that was Jerry Cobbler just got eaten, turned into a skeleton.
But I remember when Matt boarded that of the flower, stripping the flesh off the guy and it's a skeleton. You're like, can we do that? That was actually one of the early conversations. I was like, this movie is about death, but it's also a comedy. And again, back to the grim fairy tale thing, feels like you need to experience. Jack Horner doesn't care about anybody, and and a way to show that is he called them like the red shirts from Star Trek. They just get killed off one by one. Ethical bug.
our very own Kevin McCann.
Do you want to talk about how Ethical Bug came to be?
Yep.
Yeah, it felt like. I mean, we wanted to get Jack's point of view across. You needed somebody to be traveling with him, and we always compare it to a devil and an angel. I think we were all kind of brainstorming different characters, and somebody came up with that. What if it's essentially
Was it Paul? I think
There's Paul.
Yeah,
Pusher,
Paul
yeah.
pushed for it.
Jimmy
Yeah.
Cricket
And
from
it was kind
Pinocchio?
of late in the process, right? And I think it felt like a big idea. And weren't you guys like, oh, we don't know about that? What did he say to you?
He's like, come on, it'll be funny.
It wasn't, come on. Didn't they say, come on, you cowards?
Yeah, come on, you cowards.
But I think hearing Kevin scratch, like combining the two ideas.
Well, I think for us, we were kind of, you always are influenced by different characters.
Yeah.
And Jimmy Stewart, like in It's a Wonderful Life, is so pure and
So earnest.
and,
Earnest.
And just felt like, well, there's an element of that you want to put in. And
It gave it the right old-timey feel.
Yeah.
It's such a great character dynamic to have like the worst character in our movie with this conscience that's constantly trying.
Oh, yeah. It's such a good dynamic.
Yeah.
And another example, like Kevin McCann, is the editorial production supervisor, helped us out, did the voice just as we were trying to find the character. And it's one of those examples where you just fall in love with the voice and you can't imagine anyone else doing it.
And again, like story-wise, like we have these parallels where, again, like Dog is with Puss and Kitty, and ultimately they learn from Dog, and Ethical Bug is supposed to serve that role for Jack, but it's the opposite where Jack doesn't value or doesn't listen to Ethical Bug, you know, as truly as the villain should not do.
Dave Walter storyboarded this sequence. So
really
good.
cracked it for us.
Deprive the world.
Love the arrogance of Puss.
And some Alice Herring, Lyle Nagy, I think also boarded on the scene, but
And again, just have to shout out to our animation team again, like these lovely nuanced performances.
It's one of my favorite lines coming up.
oh yeah.
It is.
Fever on My Face. That actually, one of the directors who's worked with Antonio Banderas before on previous movie, Antonio, who was wearing a prosthetic beard in that movie, and I think it was somewhere in like Atlanta or something, and
Really
it was
hot, yeah.
incredibly humid and hot, and Antonio actually said, "This feels like a fever on my face," and it was fun. We put that line in there, and Antonio remembered saying that, and he loved putting it in again.
Yeah, it took it to the
It
next
works.
level. Yeah.
It's always, when it's personal, it's funny.
Shout out to Mike Mitchell.
Yep.
Yeah.
Oh, I love this lighting. And again, I love shots like this where it's very intimate and see the reflection of Kitty in her eyes. But
It's the first, I mean, it's perfect for what's happening in the movie now. They are actually starting to warm to each other.
And Heidi, you want to talk about it means something when, again, when he's getting shaved and loses the beard,
Yeah,
right?
it's like the first step in Puss's arc of, lowering that persona and being a little bit vulnerable, asking for help from Kitty to shave his beard. It's a tiny baby step for him.
And then, as mentioned before, the stick he got from Dog, now he's leveled up with a little gatito blade given by Kitty. Again, another meaningful relationship and connection he's finding on this journey.
I think that was really important to us to make sure, we start out with everybody at odds. They don't want the dog to come with them. Puss and Kitty have this bad blood between them, and believably progressing them warmer to each other. And those emotional props help.
Yeah, these props, these gifts mean something in the arc of our hero.
Let him go.
Oh, I don't know.
This scene is just stunning with the animation and the lighting.
Matt Flynn storyboarded this. And especially
Simon.
when it gets ridiculous. And then Simon boarded so many versions of this. Really, that marriage of those two approaches.
And again,
it's an amazing scene.
again, cool Western imagery, the standoff, long shadows. Yeah, right there. Love those long shadows and these kind of like, kind of that Arizona like rock setting,
I think we named this sequence Fistful of Characters, right?
Yeah. Oh, yeah. That's right. Joel, Yeah, go ahead, Heidi. Sorry.
I just love the stepped animation.
Yeah.
Here.
Yeah.
It's
No, I was
so
going to say, I
cool.
want to talk about Jakob, who supervised this beast of a sequence.
Yeah, Jakob Jensen, who was our head of character animation on Crude's New Age that we worked on with him, was a good sport. We gave him like every giant. He was a supervising animator on this movie, and we gave him every sequence that just had
All the
characters
characters.
in it.
Yeah, a billion characters.
But I love like this right here. Someone exploding into confetti when they get hit with the unicorn horn was such a fun surprise, and again a fun way to experience death in this
I think
family
it makes
movie.
death palatable for our movie.
I
Yeah.
think the original conception by Matt Flynn was that they exploded into candy.
Oh, yeah.
But that was a hat on a hat.
But again, a great challenge for our effects team to work out, and
Yes.
they landed it great.
Here
And I
comes the
love
money
this shot.
Yeah.
Because there's in the metaphor of Puss has been partying his whole life and been kind of ignoring death.
the skull.
That shot itself where it rotates around and death is there.
Yeah, skull imagery of the wolf.
Do yourself a favor and pause on that beautiful image. See that cool hidden skull.
Thanks for the map.
I think the way we keep reintroducing the wolf is like we build Puss up. He's getting better. He's learning something. He's letting his beard be shaved. And then the wolf comes back and he reverts back to
Yeah.
his fear.
Yeah.
It's we advance him and then we pull him back. It's like snakes and ladders with him.
Yeah.
Voy a hacer a todos alfombras.
We got Panic Attack coming up, one of the standout emotional scenes.
Man. So Taylor Meacham. that
Yep, gotta give
storyboarded
a
this whole
shout
sequence.
out to Taylor, who
It's great. It's
he really killed it with the acting, and a lot of the scene is silent and just done through the visuals and the acting and the subtlety, and he knocked it out of the park. And then
And this is Puss at his most vulnerable that we've ever seen him in any of the movies.
Yeah, I don't think anyone would expect to ever see this in a Puss in Boots movie.
this moment would always, in all of our screenings, would get an audible "aw" from the audience when Dog would lay his head on.
And
Puss's
this
pillow.
is the dog who wanted to be a therapy dog,
It's paid off.
really getting his wish.
Yeah.
But he's not concerned about himself again. He's just so worried about Puss.
Yeah.
And this is how, I mean, so like Kitty started to warm up to the dog. Puss was tolerating him, but this really is what bonds these two.
And as a story point, they were calling him Perro, his dog, but now Puss has switched it up to Perrito as a more affectionate term.
That's one of the cool things where here at DreamWorks, we have like a Latin group that would give us insights. And one of the things they were telling us was Perro can be kind of derogatory.
Yeah.
But Perrito, there's something
Warm, right?
warm
It's
and
like
endearing.
saying dog
and
versus
using that
little
as
dog,
part of
yeah.
the story. I mean, I've had great kind of consultants on this.
Okay.
I love that Antonio's reaction when he saw this scene finished
Oh, blew
because
his
his
mind.
performance is amazing.
Yeah.
But he's like, there's something so metaphorically beautiful in this cat talking to a dog
Yeah.
who's this like kind of enemy, in nature, and they're breaking their barriers, and he's being so honest.
That image we just saw of like, again, that kind of composite as we stay on Puss's silhouette going into the reveal of Santa Coloma is actually a church, not a heist. But I was really pushing for that visual to represent the emotion of like Puss's regret that he left or did not marry Kitty.
So maybe you should tell that to Kitty. Might make you feel better.
Just love that the dog's always, he's always, nudging them and telling them, giving them like the next right thing to do,
Yeah.
just kind of in an earnest way.
Kitty, I lost the map. I messed up.
I love this joke.
We'll get it back. We've been in worse pickles.
It was a Jim Ryan joke as well.
Love it.
The bears. We have to find them before they find
Another cool transition.
Oh, we are so close. It's finally happening.
I could chase that wish now.
I mean, this brings us back to like, our movie is Puss in Boots and we really follow his story, but we also introduce these new characters and they have a beautiful story in their own right. Really an orphan girl trying to determine who her true family is. And we really get a sense of that in this sequence.
Crime
And it was nice that we had our Cockney consultant, Mark Swift, who told us about the Who Ate All the Pie soccer song that we then got to put into the movie.
Yeah, such
Mark
a good
knows
idea.
all the cool songs that kids love these days.
Old-timey
Throw out
songs.
the barrel.
And again, with Ray Winston, Sam Sakeo being huge soccer fans, love Mark's idea, just really jumped, at the opportunity to really belt out that song.
I love this, that the map is saying, you already have it.
Yeah.
What you seek might be right in
This is
front
one
of
of
you.
my favorite shots in the movie like that.
It's so gorgeous.
Again, that pushed fairy tale image and tone that we have.
Something's cooking.
No.
Man, when this scene got animated, it just came to life. It just... And the lighting.
Yeah, our
Yeah,
lighting
how-
crew, our lighting team, man.
Yeah, Mike Necci with the lighting. It feels so warm and inviting, and it's luring everybody into, stopping, getting distracted, which Goldie's not falling for.
And Hator's score here of like another variation of the Goldie Bears theme where it sounds almost hypnotic, spellbinding, like tempting them, right, into this distraction, as Goldie's saying, none of this is real.
Take a look at the library card and we'll sign it out.
Goldie had that book signed out so many times.
Love the details in here. If you freeze frame here, we love hidden messages. The first letter of each word on that line spells out, you already have it.
Mm-hmm.
It's all these messages for Goldie, realizing she's, by the end, has a family of her own.
You
They
can
didn't
actually,
look how she expected.
yeah, you can read that story. It's
And here we see little Goldie, and she was voiced by...
Kaylee Crawford, some real diva actress. It's actually my daughter, who's 9 years old, and she does not have a Cockney accent,
Mark
but luckily
was a coach.
Mark Swift was her Cockney coach.
She was fantastic and didn't need any help. But again, another example of someone coming in and just helping us out, and then we fell in love with the voice, and we said, we have to keep that voice.
This is the same where Mama, in a way, I think in her heart already has what she wants. I think she goes along with she's going along with the plan, but I think she's quite content as well. That was the day everything became just right.
I remember Olivia just connected with that character so much where, like, when we were pitching her the story, she was getting teary-eyed at this scene of seeing the moment Goldie came into their lives.
Heidi, our head of story. This is one of my favorite scenes that you've done, just where Kitty and Puss are just getting closer, like elevating a relationship. And these shots coming right here, again, these are my favorite performances. But again, I think you laid the groundwork, Heidi, for like this, again, subtle nuance acting, like the side of Puss we haven't seen, and Kitty leaning in and just listening to him. Love those little moments.
There's at least two scenes in the
Right
movie that I think the way Heidi boarded them in her first go is how they ended up in the end of the movie.
Yeah, which is rare. When you storyboard, you re-storyboard over and over. You have different people try it, and Heidi just has a way of just beautiful drawings, but really just trying to make Heidi blush. She's sitting next to me, but she was kind of always tracking the spine of all the characters, but especially Puss and Kitty. And I think your approach and having that big picture kind of view of where every scene was fitting in just allowed for you to do it in one pass, and it just worked, and it's so beautiful. And I love this.
The choreography you were pushing too, this
yeah.
blocking of the characters, this courting of cats.
And then when it went to animation and then lighting, you'll see even here, when they get to the top of the tree, there's lens flares that are in heart shapes. That's something like lighting just was like, yeah, look at those heart-shaped lens flares. Where just every department just kept pushing and pushing it.
Mm-hmm.
And then our ongoing metaphor again, there is that home and happiness, and the cats looking off at a distant home.
This scene was one of the last to come together. We always were struggling to find the best places to put in. It's always a dance on how much is too much Jack Horner, but we love the character so much and we wanted to get this information in. And this was a scene that we struggled with. We set it in a myriad of different ways. And Joel, you first cracked it you took a visual gag from an earlier version of a montage that was cut out of the movie, and you're like, I think we could have the scene where Jack's walking across the Bridge of Bakers. But then it was one of these things we call a cobble, where it was like, okay, well, we have that board and we have some of Mulaney's dialogue. Well, let's start to put something together and see what happens. And I have two very talented associate editors on the movie, Jacqueline Karamblis and Natalia Cronenbold. And Natalia took the reins of this cobble, and she went and found snippets of dialogue from different scenes with Jack Horner that, kind of built the spine of like, oh, but I love these guys. And that's kind of how we built the scene off of it.
Yeah, it's amazing. It's one of the cool things in animation you get to do, which is it's like Legos. You're putting them together in different ways, and you can.
This is one of the funniest shots.
Oh yeah, that
and
stylized
I love that
card.
With the style, we can do that a color card in the background when Ethical Bug just loses it.
This is one of my favorite shots with Jiminy's arm just waving in the foreground, yelling at Jack, "You're horrible."
This little interchange is just one of the ones that there's not a lot happening in the movie. It's not an important point, but it's so charming and funny between the three of them.
Well, you can see the different way. You see their dynamic has changed. They treat him like a little brother or something now.
And that was the setup for our team friendship runner.
Mm-hmm.
We had a lot of fun alt names.
Yeah, Harvey ran with some good riffs.
We could share the wish.
Share the wish.
The sequence coming up is one of those ones where, we talk about the kitchen sink is in this. It's like there's so much going on from all the different departments and how they partner up to really get a coherent vision on the screen.
Yeah.
And finding the right, it was a real struggle. It was a big concept of the map starting to change the landscape, but then freezing, and it was one that we struggled with for a long time to get it just right.
Yeah, and it is like just such a combination of every single department. And our VFX supervisor, Mark Edwards, is he's a talented man.
Yeah.
He's
a genius.
Yeah, really is able to pull everything together, every department, so they seamlessly create beautiful images like this that are so complicated.
Again, that home motif.
I think, just in the making of a movie, the partnership between Nate Ragg and Mark Edwards was so core and critical to getting our movie to look as beautiful as it does. Like, Nate would often be the inspiration, but Mark would really figure out how to get that on the screen in a achievable way.
Bring it to life,
Because a lot of times we don't know the complexities we're asking for. We're just like, wouldn't that be cool?
Yeah. And the house just blows apart and floats in gravity.
I think with animation, people feel like, oh, it's animation, you can do whatever you want. And there may be some truth to that, but talking about it's hyper complex and could be super time intensive and expensive, and it's a real challenge to make these things work.
That fun dance choreography, got a shout out to Laurent Caniero, and also supervising animator on Kitty. But yeah, just finding that.
This was a callback to the first movie.
Oh yeah.
Where they dance down from the roof.
Now they're dancing.
And now they can magically dance up. And it works.
Don't question the physics in this scene.
As Jim Ryan found out.
Again, incredible effects work done here by our effects team.
I like that Goldie and the Bears can go between being sympathetic to villains again, because they're all after this star, and so it just makes for, again, that good, the bad, and the ugly kind of template where you enjoy all of them on screen, but they all have conflicting wants.
And selfish. They're all out for themselves.
Look!
And again, we have this strong image coming up about Kitty's hand and Puss's hand, again, like emanating the theme of connection, what Puss needs in his life.
Of course, it's difficult for Puss because now that Kitty's suggesting maybe they share the wish, he knows he doesn't have that option. And how he's going to resolve that, I think, is he doesn't know.
And it's a beautiful location, Cave of Reflections. Another recurring visual motif in our movie is reflections and close-up of eyes and what a character wants and what they see, what they think they need.
And Sean Calico was the supervising lighter on the cave reflections, and it's one of those stunning sequences where it's stylized and surprising and beautiful at the same time.
Simon Wells boarded this.
Oh, yeah.
Talk about an intensive sequence to board, but so much of it is reflective of his first pass.
Yeah.
And then the animators, I mean, just the character, the different personalities of Puss that they brought to life here is amazing.
I love how we would come up with the stupidest ideas in story, like Buff Puss, and the joke, like, back when we were larger than life, or him, like, showing his guns when he's like, when all 9 of us are here. And then production, Nate and everyone would make it look so beautiful. They'd make our dumb ideas look so stunningly beautiful.
Maybe we could be happy without a wish.
Got a shout out to Marceline Tanguy, who really took ownership of Goldie and the Bears a lot throughout this movie, but this scene was one of the comic set pieces that she really helped bring to life.
A fan favorite scene. And you're right, Marceline, she was our go-to person for the character of the bears and the dog.
This was one where it just felt like, again, the dog does such a great job of bringing comedy with heart underneath it that, like, he's admiring this banter that the bears and Goldie have, seeing them as a family. And the dog's lived on the street, doesn't know what curse words are. Mm-hmm. So he has the most innocent approach to this, but him basically jumping in and cursing them out and shocking them was such a fun way to arrive.
It was funny in our previews that the scene was so divisive. Like, the parents always didn't like it, but it was always the kids' favorite scene in the movie.
I love when dog, like, roasted the bears.
Oi, you shut up, you little mutt, or I'll cut you from pooper to snooter.
I think in comedies, what's so wonderful is when you can have stuff that's making you laugh, but is leading to the point of the scene.
And Joel, to the point you were making earlier, it's like, the dog has no idea how terrible. These are things people have yelled at him.
He's heard it all.
He just said, "Oh, this is what people do."
Go ahead, Heidi.
I was going to say, there is a line that we cut out here that was one of my favorite lines. I was sad to see it go, or at the end where he's like, you won the orphan lottery. And then he used to say, I mean, what the bleep else do you need in life?
But I think that for us, it felt like it was time to hit the heart of the scene, which is you won the orphan lottery, and let that sit.
Yeah. And again,
we always have so many jokes we cut out just because you go, okay, let's look at the architecture of the story.
And again, with dog embodying the theme, right, of like what is a meaningful life, and look what's in front of you to be happy.
I thought you were going to get the wish. You got the map. You don't need them. Yeah, get those.
And this was a tricky scene to come together. And
Mark, you had kind of like put your finger on it of like, it's such a balance of like the forest is essentially holding a mirror up to Puss, showing him, do you want this again?
I think for us, it was like, what is the downside of being a rock star? And it was that thing of you go from town to town, you're without your family, you're on the road. It's fun when you're playing the gig, but when you're not playing the gig, it's a little lonely out there. And so again, we're trying to show that Puss's life, even though it seems perfect at the start, really isn't. He's missing something key in his life.
I love how he arrived at that Santa Coloma image again.
Yeah.
But there's a different meaning for Puss, even though it's the second time we've seen it in this story. And I love how they're just being such jerks.
That's a lovely Jim line, too.
Jim's a very witty, snappy guy.
Well, I have very patient directors who let me pitch 10,000 jokes. Once in a while, one gets past.
It's a numbers game, right, Jim?
Joel, do you want to talk about like the scene and finding it with Wagner? It's such a good scene with the wolf.
No.
Respect.
I love this scene. And this is such a powerful scene where you've been thinking this guy is this bounty hunter, but realizing it's Death himself. And Puss is the one in the wrong in this story. And Wagner just, that's why it was so important that it wasn't a villain that Wagner was playing. He has every right to be frustrated because Puss doesn't value life and therefore doesn't respect death.
And I love the dialogue in this scene. I think Paul Fisher so nailed this scene.
Yeah.
And I've come for you, Puss in Boots.
And it's one of those like super cool combinations where you get Paul's dialogue and then Wagner's execution of it, which just there's even just the way he's pronouncing words just has there's something off about it. But you can hear the frustration under his words.
Yeah,
but that he's also like toying with his food. He's like loving seeing Puss actually afraid.
I love all the things that we're starting to pay off that we set up in the bar of saying, you know, like you laugh at death, but you're not laughing now.
And in that bar scene, we had all those reflections on the 8 glasses, which was a precursor to seeing all these 8 lives reflected. And
more foreshadowing.
A quick shout out to Aaron Williams. He's a lighting coordinator, and it's one of the examples of people give us ideas all the way making the movie. And he was the one that pointed out, you should actually see the lives etched on his blade. And we thought, what a great idea.
Yeah.
And we include it, makes its way to the film. And I love that's such a collaborative team we have. We get ideas from so many people on the crew, and so many of those ideas make their way through.
Yeah. And that really made it such a visual where Puss is going, that's what made him say, you're not a bounty hunter.
Yeah.
You've been tracking me 8 of my lives.
Yeah.
You're supernatural.
The big reveal of death. Love it.
Oh.
And that was another big thing that it was a big ask that we had. It's like, can we make this guy Death? You know, and then the studio supported us.
Love this shot. Yeah. The reveal of the star, the mythical star.
Baptiste van Opstal, he's our head of look on this, and boy, does this look good. That star was so complex to create, keeping the balance of this painterly style. But as you can see, like that star actually has so many layers of almost like broken glass. And we need it to be striking when you saw it, because this is the first time you see it from the character point of view, the first time the audience is experiencing the magnitude of this star.
Yeah. It's our epic set piece for our third act, our showstopper. Another cool transition. Continuing the house motif with Goldie and the bears.
Continuing the motif of Heidi boarding amazing stuff.
Yeah.
This is another one. Heidi is just so beautiful. And sometimes when we're writing in the early stages, sometimes we're just exploring the characters. This wasn't actually a scene originally where we were saying, you know, what would the conversation be if Goldie was to actually confess to them? And I love this where when we pitched to the actors, this moment where it comes out. Goldie wasn't planning on telling him she's going to get a human family. But the heartbreak with Baby.
Stick around until the porridge is gone. Hey, Goldie.
That line, I guess some people only stick around till the porridge is gone. Ray Winston, when we actually pitched him the story, in the moment, that was his reaction. And that's another example of how the actors inform so much of the character point of view and in the writing process as well. And we just put it in the movie.
This is one of my favorite moments in this movie, this conversation from Mama. It's heartbreaking. Olivia just nailed this. And then the animators on top of it. Every time it breaks my heart watching her attitude here.
And I love Baby in the background where he's been arguing. There's been this like sibling rivalry with him and Goldie the whole time but underneath it all, he sees her as a sister, and he is probably the most brokenhearted of everybody in that scene.
Quick shout out to Willie Harbour, who's one of our supervising animators. Really found a lot of, again, beautiful, subtle things with Goldie and the Bears in their performances.
First star, I see tonight.
At the start of our emotional showdown. Again, continuing the Western's visual storytelling, but through our characters in the specific moment of their journeys and their relationship. Like we always talked about Joel, right? Like Heidi, like will their relationship, the duel here is like, will their relationship win or lose?
I've never had that.
And in these kind of scenes, it's so beyond the words, how it's performed from the voice acting to the animator makes or breaks it. And calling out Antonio's vulnerability there, and that translated to the way he says, "I'm on my last life." He's like, he's beaten down at this point, and it just is like one of those things that Laurent had animated, and it was just like, oh, that's so like heartbreaking the way he says that. He just feels so real.
And Kitty does a lovely job as well with Salma's performance and the animation of she's on one hand she's on the attack and she's accusing him, but then she's also vulnerable as well, and she's going oscillating between the two.
You can see how hurt she is. She covers that, and you can see it pierce through.
Well, she kind of calls Puss out with his flaw that he's running, like his legend is his way of running from vulnerability, and now he's running out of fear of death. But it's nice to tie those two together.
Exactly, and this journey of him learning to stop running.
Yeah.
This good, bad, and the ugly homage again.
I'm going to just give a quick shout out here just to our production team. When we make these movies, like every movie ever made, we have a budget, we have a schedule, we have a release date. We're always trying to get the maximum on the screen. And like so many animated movies, the action sequences in the third act always are the last things we do, which are always the most complicated, of course. And we ask so much, we push it so far in story and editorial that I really have to, I'm always amazed. We're always over budget, but somehow our teams pull it through. And I want to give a huge shout out to Heather Lanza and Mike Netchie and Mark Edwards and Damon Reisberg and all these guys that somehow go over and above at the end of a movie to get these wonderful, amazing shots that we see. And I'm never sure how they do it, but they seem to pull it off, and it really makes our movie.
Ooh, aha, it's fair season. I'm gonna bust you up, Plum Fum, and then I'm gonna wear your clothes.
I love the way Baby's brain works. He's just he thinks he's somehow gonna get Jack Horner's suit. That's part of the wish.
That's a nice runner we've had too.
It's a runner that makes us laugh.
Yeah.
Sometimes when you know the characters so well, you hope the audience laughs as well, but you just put stuff that you're like, I love that.
His magic curtain of love and how it gets more dangerous throughout the third act.
I love this. Goldie's chain coming in.
Yep.
You're the smash. I'm the grab.
Yes!
I love what you did with some of the coloring of Goldie throughout the sequence. Do you want to talk a little bit about that?
Yeah, you know, in the surfacing of actually all the characters, in order to make sure the journey felt like, wow, they're going through everything to get what they think will make them happy, you see them get tattered and torn, and, you know, Puss has dirt on him, his fur's gnarly, and Goldie, throughout the story, especially in this third act, at the beginning, she had this blue dress, very colorful. She stood out from the bears. By the end of the movie, she's caked in mud. She's brown, just like the bears, and it helps her. You know, it's a visualization of where she arrives. Of this is my family.
Great work by the Surfson team, led by Lisa Connors on that.
I've only ever had one life, but
this moment right here, Joel, I remember you were talking about like kind of the dog also fulfilling his role as like the best friend in the romantic comedy that just nudges the character in the right direction.
Yeah, it's always so tricky of like which character bumps the the main character into the next emotional state. And this shot right there where the wolf walks through. Januel, you were referencing a Kurosawa movie.
Yeah,
Yojimbo.
Right? I was really pushing for that shot where Toshiro Mifune is just walking so cool, like that big epic duel moment. He's just walking through the dust.
Yeah, with his hands in his
it is Ronin robe. Yeah. That's another frame worth pausing with the blade framing Puss and all his 9 lives. Well, I always felt like I'd geek out to you guys, like Joel, like saying like, oh, this is Puss is at the gates of hell and he's being judged by the devil, instead of this epic fight.
And that fire helps that. 'Cause, and that, shout out to effects, that fire is just, there's such a painterly style in it. It looks amazing. And then the lighting in this is just the
light leaks.
Prismatic, all of the colors of the rainbow coming in, and Puss realizing there's more to live for, a more full vision of life.
Yeah, one life is enough. Again, paying off the sword. As I mentioned earlier, there was that little Easter egg of like the skeleton death image holding the sword. Well, the wolf is death and has the sword, and now has returned it to him.
Shout out to a friend of the film, Tom McGrath, who he was the one to first suggest to us that maybe Puss loses his sword in the bar battle and doesn't get it back till the end, which we were able to, which brought the stick along for the ride and made Puss more vulnerable all along the way.
Absolutely, that did so much for the story.
This amazing wolf fight here, storyboarded by Anthony Holden, and then taken up to the next level by Ludo and the animation team. It's just the show-stopping action sequence.
And on this movie, there's an extra step in the production process where after it's finished in lighting in CG movies, normally it's done and it's beautiful. Ludo Buoncho would hand draw all of those motion blurs that are that kind of 2D feel
Drawn
that
lines,
really like amp up the action, all of the sparks that are hitting, and it kind of seamlessly integrates with the effects and the lighting.
Yeah, tangible feel. And again, the importance of that gatito blade, again, the gift that Kitty has given him earlier in the film that is integral in saving his life.
Now the shoe is on the other foot.
And this was something that we struggled with and debated quite a bit, is when one is fighting death, how do you win that fight? How does that end?
Yeah, I remember when we stabbed death in the previous screening.
Yeah, we were misguided. Maybe.
I remember a lot of people like pointed out, like, again, like you were saying, Joel, he's not the bad guy. Death is the teacher, and how do you defeat him? You don't, but you can win his respect.
But frustrate him at the same time.
Yeah.
What's he saying there in Spanish, Januel?
He's saying, oh, why did I play with my food?
I love this, that the wolf really wanted to enjoy killing him. And now he's like, the guy changed. And I love it. It's back to that kind of samurai code.
Yeah.
Where there's an honor and he's like, I can't do it.
Yeah, you're not the same cat anymore. You've
love
really,
this too.
Yeah. Oh, I love that shot.
You know we will meet again,
right? Sí. Hasta la muerte.
Yeah, that was your suggestion, Joel. That was...
Yeah, I saw that on a guy's shirt at Disneyland. No, but honestly, that
such a
phrase,
profound thing. Yeah.
That phrase is like so perfect for when you're talking to death. We'll meet again.
You never know where inspiration will strike.
I don't need it. I've got what I wish.
I love this.
No magic required.
So beautifully animated. Aw, Jack Horner ruining the moment.
Hey, that's set up with the Alice in Wonderland cookies. Finally paying off.
Just another shout out to another friend of the show, Chris Sanders, who was it's like you've wrapped up the emotional story with the wolf, but you need the big ending. And there is something so fun to see. Now that everybody's healed, you get to see them be a team.
Called it dessert, right? This is our dessert.
Yeah, this is the dessert.
Starlight, star bright, first star I see tonight. Perrito! I wish I may.
I remember this exchange coming up with the dog. I think it was, it was earlier in the process, and the movie was running quite long. And I remember, Joel, you coming to me and pitching this and giving me some boards. And it was just one of those things where I think it was probably 11 o'clock at night. And I'm like, we're already over length, and what are we doing here? But when we started putting it together and voicing it, and you were voicing it and all the straining, it was one of those things where I found myself against my will laughing as I was working on it. You know?
I love that about Jim. Even when he disagrees, he'll put 110% into making it work.
Yep.
Oh, man. It's
Team what?
a lot of blood in this movie.
But that's
Bloody
happy
noses.
blood.
Happy blood.
Happy blood for the first time.
Love this little bookend payoff of the Spanish Splinter. Now Puss is not alone. And I always love, Joel, like we talked about, building up to this payoff where all the characters have been fighting over this map. And like you said, now that they've healed and looked inward and found what true happiness was.
They all destroy it together.
Yeah.
With the exception of Jack Horner.
Yeah.
Doesn't learn anything.
Yeah.
So kids, when you're at school, make sure you learn or you'll end up like Jack Horner.
I just remember when we introed the Phoenix, weren't they like, he's not going to fly, right?
Oh, yeah.
At first it was this, they were just going to color a chicken model. And then they built you the guy, but he's like, yeah.
Feathers are expensive.
Yeah.
Flapping wings are expensive. But they
We were
made it all
running out of
work.
money.
Exploding stars are even more expensive. It's such a beautiful... It feels like a fireworks show. And there's something to us keeping this pace. It's a fast-paced movie, but that you feel this urgency, and then this is really the moment you get to rest and live in a moment.
Yeah.
Them sitting down together, not focusing on anything else, but just being in the moment. It's beautiful. And this is where, like I was mentioning earlier, Goldie now she's completely caked in mud, and it's like a bear. I love Samson Kao's performance there as well. Baby.
Everything.
And again, Heitor's rendition of the theme now more acoustic and more heartfelt for this moment. And this is actually another bookend to when they were introduced, where it's like similar composition, but now instead of Broken Home, it's an actual fully realized home with the bears.
And she acknowledges the dog there and the advice he gave her.
You got any ideas for our next job?
Oh, remember that pie factory?
But not everything is wrapped up. Get a new partner.
You want more ethical bug?
There's a talking cockroach on my nose.
I like their instinct is to smash it.
I somehow don't think they're going to follow his advice.
On that image of them walking away, that's the last image of a home the tree branches create there.
And for this, it was really important, again, that, like what Joel was saying, slowing down and what is important, what makes a meaningful life, the connections you have, being in the moment and enjoying them, slowing down a bit.
I kind of like it.
I like this, taking on the name Perrito, which they each kind of called him at moments when they started to care for him.
And this beautiful shot here was, again, another callback to the opening shot where it's just Puss alone as a legend rock star. But here now he's got a family.
And the movie's over. Definitely over.
All done.
Nothing else.
All right, gonna start getting up
credits.
and leaving to go, what?
There's more.
To pack my captain's hat
Yes, Governor. And your captain's shoes, your captain's coat, and your captain's pajamas.
and what about
Oh, who boarded this?
Marceline?
Marceline, and she put in that little one-off seagull joke, which we love.
Just that thing, you go, that guy's definitely an arrogant punk.
Team French?
He got
Team
his way.
friendship payoff.
Makes us look ridiculous.
Too late now. It's official. Yeah, Seagull.
Steady as she goes, Perrito.
And
Where are we headed anyway?
the lighting and the design of this is so beautiful.
Yeah.
The teal and the sea.
The
and
Mediterranean Sea, as Nate
it's
calls it.
amazing. And
This
then
was a-
Whoa!
This is a
Far away.
suggestion that Mark you had, and I don't think we knew at the time that audiences would lose their minds.
Look, I think the great thing about Puss in Boots is connected to this bigger world. And just to remind our audience, we see a great adventure with him, but where's he going? He's going to hang out with his friends and hopefully in the future, we'll get to see Puss in Boots hanging out with his friends, giving a little teaser of what that might be.
Yep.
You know, the conceptual idea behind these main non-end credits was like you've mentioned how we love the painterly look of these films, and we were always just blown away when you'd like pause and think it's a painting, but then they'd press play and it started moving. So
it would trick all of us. We'd be sitting in the theater and we'd think it was a Viz Dev painting, and then it would play, like you're saying. And
so we thought, like, oh, why don't we have like just take stills from the film, you know, for each like cast and crew member, like they all.
Back out to audiences around the world. I think we really felt blessed that we were asked to shepherd this journey.
Absolutely, and it's one of those things that I hope everybody feels the joy and fun that I think we all experience being able to work together as a crew. It's one of those things that these movies take so much, and it's always fun to put ourselves into the movie.
Yeah, I couldn't have asked for a better crew. Thank you to this cast crew. Like we made a beautiful film and we told a touching story.
Except for that one guy, Joseph Butler.
Just
kidding.
Let's not. Look, one bad apple is not going to spoil the whole movie. Joe Butler.
Well, Joe Butler spent more weeks on this movie than anybody else.
That's true.
Love Joe.
Shout out to Joe.
Yeah. We are very grateful for Joe.
And I guess the last shout out, Hator took the great song he made in the beginning of the movie and gave us a peppy remix.
Yeah, it's like, how could you make this even more fun? He did. I love this remix.
Such fun energy.
And, you know, for the really, the people who are still with us right now, what nuggets can you share?
Well, I mean, we mentioned Claire Keane earlier, who did the map. And this is one of the cool things that all of her artwork you get to see throughout this crawl here, because it's pretty fast during the movie. And it's just a fun way to get to experience more of it.
And again, like just Claire's artwork that has this beautiful, like soft touch and illustrative quality that again really organically like handed itself to our fairy tale style.
And you know, speaking of the fairy tale style, we just passed the Digimat credits, and Dan Brick, who is the head of the like matte painting on this movie, him and his team did an amazing job where that painterly backdrop, some of those art paintings that just integrate seamlessly into the rest of the movie, and they did a beautiful job.
Movie making magic.
It is like magic. I mean, I've been, you know, in animation for 25 years, but I'm in the editorial end where, you know, I'm never in the meetings where some of those departments do their work and show you guys their dailies. And so to me, it's just like at some point, and now here comes the magical shots. Like, I don't know how this all came together, but my God, does it look beautiful. I mean, you guys are off in those meetings seeing how the sausage is made, but I'm not. And so it's always just so
You get
amazing.
fresh eyes and get a surprise.
And of course, we have to shout out our IMF team and Steve and all the little miracles that he did along the way that just kept taking it to the next level.
IMF stands for Impossible Mission, of course. We don't actually know what it stands for, but they are a team that after you're done with all the steps of the movie, if there's anything you want to still adjust, they come in and magically fix it for you.
And just when you make these movies, as we've said, it's a partnership. And one of the partners we work with are the studio, DreamWorks. And really, that for us was Margie Cohen.
And Kristen Lowe.
Mm-hmm.
And they couldn't have been better partners for us. They were so supportive, so much wisdom from them at different times. And so many voices come in and help you make these movies. But those two really...
Yeah, it's the trust that Margie and Kristen had with us was very empowering.
I really want to shout out Chris Meledandri, who's been such a great voice of wisdom, partner, supporter on this production as well. Every time we'd meet with him, he would give us such great insights. And again, these movies come together with so many talented people and important voices, and he's definitely one of them. Thank you, Chris.
And one further, like Chris Kuzer, who was really the development executive who worked alongside us, has been with this character since the very birth of this character and knows more about the Shrek universe than anyone else at DreamWorks. And he, again, was a great partner.
Sometimes he knows too much about it.
And as we're hearing this beautiful song, other partners that we've had at Universal Music, Mike Knobloch and Natalie Hayden, have been always so supportive. Every movie we work on with them and magically help us come up with these songs that just feel so right. And we thank them for their partnership as well.
Yeah, and when we have things like, hey, can we do a Spanglish version of the end? They're the ones who are like, we can make
find
that happen.
the people to make that happen. And really, like sometimes like a week or two later, and they're like this? Yeah, so, and they're so great.
Shout out to the production babies.
Yes. Animation takes a little bit longer than live action and enough time to make a baby.
You know what? Actually, some films you could have 2 kids.
And that's our mic drop.
Yeah. Thank you, everyone, for joining us.
Thank you.
It's the Puss in Boots team signing off.
Peace.
Later.